Welcome to this edition of SKNIS Week in Review. The Week in Review highlights the top stories of the work of the government for the past week. In the government's news for the week of May 6th to 11th, government refutes harboring Chinese economic citizen wanted by Interpol. New exhibit offers glimpse inside government house. Places of Memory book launched. Government plans to strengthen prison rehabilitation program. Crime is everybody's business. And Norway's ambassador pledges to advocate more for small island developing states. I am your presenter, Sherima Matthew. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis has refuted news reports that suggested that the country is harboring two economic citizens who allegedly defrauded a state institution from the People's Republic of China. Two individuals who are said to be on the Interpol's wanted list.
In my capacity as the Prime Minister of this country, I wish to make it clear that I reject in the strongest terms the allegation that my government is harboring any fugitives in our country. I categorically deny as well the assertion that my government is somehow failing to cooperate with a request with any country as mandated by law. I state further that no evidence has been provided to law enforcement or otherwise that any public official has been offered or has received any money for the protection in this matter. These assertions are a malicious fabrication calculated to tarnish the hard-won reputation of our beloved country.
Dr. Harris reported that the matter is under active investigation by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. He said that as a responsible member of the international community, St. Kitts and Nevis will never become a safe haven for criminals and have stated repeatedly that the Federation's Citizenship by Investment program is the platinum standard of the global industry. Old passports, historical records, and pictures, archived newspaper articles, cups, and other memorabilia from a number of dignitaries are all part of an exhibit entitled Inside Government House. The exhibition was opened on Monday, May 8th at the National Museum by the St. Christopher National Trust, to which Sir Tapley Seaton, Governor General, was selected as the new patron of the National Trust.
I'm very pleased and honored to have been invited to be one patron of the National Trust. This exhibition, I think, is quite timely because featuring Inside Government House gives some idea of what I sought to do when in 2015 I put together this leaflet which most of you have this morning. It was intended to show something and to document, especially for the schools, the question of the history of Government House and some of its occupants. I am privileged to be in that position at this present time. And so I wanted to share with my fellow citizens, and especially young citizens, what Governor General was all about.
Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris described Sir Tapley as one of the most beloved sons of the soil, adding that his knowledge of history is extensive.
This is a son who has been able to, as it were, reconcile different aspects of our history. This is a man who is well steeped in our history, not just our contemporary history, but for me, he's somewhat of a history professor. And that ability that he has to locate things and people in the context of our long march for development, I want others to emulate.
Inside Government House will remain on display at the National Museum located in the old Treasury Building until the end of July 2017. A new book is being introduced into the curriculum of public primary schools in St. Kitts and Nevis. The Places of Memory, the Experiences and Contributions to Enslaved Africans in St. Kitts and Nevis book was officially launched at a ceremony at Government House on Tuesday, May 9th, and was touted to be an excellent chronicle of the history of St. Kitts and Nevis as told by a citizen of the Federation. The 141-page publication was authored by educator and historian Leonard Stapleton and highlights various sites across the Federation associated with the experience and contributions of the enslaved Africans in St. Kitts and Nevis.
So many times when we journey around both islands, we pass places did amazing things. We have ruins that have passed through countless earthquakes, hurricanes, and are still standing. And I always ask people to compare the work of our ancestors to what is happening now with all the inventions and progress in technology, and what we are producing cannot even outlast a flood, a simple flood. And so within that comparison, just by looking at the ruins, you get a sense of what our forefathers were made of.
The Honorable Lindsay Grant, Minister of Tourism, said that the book caters to students to all levels, and this is important as a number of schools now have a tourism education awareness program in place that teaches students about the various aspects of tourism.
This book will go a very long way, Leonard, in educating the persons from the primary school and upwards in terms of what St. Kitts and Nevis has to offer. It is also important, I believe, that our people first know the stories, one for their own edification, and also to share these stories with others. And I believe it is in this vein that Leonard contributes to the training and the education of our tourism stakeholders and to the overall development of tourism in St. Kitts and Nevis.
The book features dynamic pictures and is broken down into 4 specific themes: adaptation and survival, resistance and revolt, human rights, and productivity and contribution. The content is easy to read and structured to be appealing to a wide base including local students and adults and foreigners, particularly tourists. Minister of Gender Affairs and Social Services, the Honorable Wendy Phipps, revealed the government's plan to strengthen the ongoing rehabilitation program for those incarcerated at Her Majesty's Prison during the Prime Minister's monthly press conference on May 10th. Minister Phipps said that over the years, a number of persons in public who are civic-minded have been contributing to the rehabilitation of prisoners from an educational standpoint. That is, getting them ready to join the workforce after their period of incarceration has ended. She added that officials from the Department of Gender Affairs and Social Services are working alongside Junie Hodge, Superintendent of Prisons, and his team to create a more structured build-out when it comes to educational development of the inmates. She said that in addition, the rehabilitation efforts will include a gender sensitization program.
So what our department is now doing is assisting with the build-out of a proper classroom equipped with the necessary furniture and audiovisual supports that would aid learning. It is a project for which we will be approaching the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education on to have support in a more structured manner. So that will become a requirement before prisoners leave the system in an effort to make them more gender sensitive, and in cases where their incarceration would have been due to domestic violence or sexual offenses, you hope that you could make a difference in that regard.
The minister said that the government is also looking at international best practices in relation to the avoidance of persons repeating offences. She said that this would deny the likelihood of offenders returning to a life of crime after they have served their sentence. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris has hailed the many successes that St. Kitts and Nevis has achieved under his leadership, noting that the country has made significant strides and is well managed, especially where the economy is concerned.
St. Kitts and Nevis is a country with a fiscal surplus. St. Kitts and Nevis has amassed surpluses which we have put to good use. We contrast these hitherto spectacular performers in the region to where they are now, and the unique case of St. Kitts and Nevis as the bright light shining in the region.
Yes, indeed.
We have no minerals, we have no oil.
Yeah.
What we are blessed with is a good progressive government that knows how to manage and that puts the interests of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis first.
The Prime Minister used the occasion to recognize his cabinet colleagues and thanked them for their support since the government assumed office in February 2015. He added that his cabinet is a cohesive group that is strong, resilient, and focused on the agenda of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Dr. Harris said that it is his cabinet's intention to ensure that St. Kitts and Nevis is the model of the best managed small island state in the world, adding that it is a realizable goal to which the government has set. Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, said that although it is important for the government to play an integral role as it relates to crime, it is also a matter for the general public to assist.
Our people, our business community, civil society, and social institutions, such as our schools and churches, all have a role to play in achieving this common objective. Our investments in national security run the gamut of training, technical assistance, procurement of crime-fighting equipment, strategic partnerships with overseas law enforcement agencies and other entities, and the restructuring of our police force. Coupled with this significant investment in national security is the attention now being placed on our legal infrastructure. Our investments in technology, including the build-out of our CCTV program and our security apps program, is also an imperative.
Prime Minister Harris said that the issue of crime is by far the Federation's single greatest challenge, and the government will continue its endeavors to ensure that citizens and residents remain safe. Norway's ambassador to St. Kitts and Nevis, Her Excellency Ingrid Malestad, pledges her commitment and that of her country to be as constructive and helpful to the Federation and other small island developing states, SIDS, in an effort to strengthen bilateral relations, as it is important for their voices to be heard in international fora.
It is indeed true that our two countries enjoy excellent relations, and I can assure you that during my tenure I will do my very best to strengthen those relations and in any way possible to me contribute to a strengthening of them.
Ambassador Malestad highlighted the area of climate change and noted that the Norwegian government is readily available to assist, as it is the 7th largest contributor to the Green Climate Fund, GCF, which is a unique global platform to respond to climate change by investing in low-emission and climate-resilient development. She added that Norway has a permanent member on the GCF board.
I am allowed to say that our board member would be at your disposal, and that Norway believes it is important for small states and small island states in particular that are vulnerable to climate change to be able to access those funds.
She explained that Norway finances a mitigation and adaptation to climate change project at Havana Regional Center in Cuba, a project which will prove beneficial to all of the Caribbean countries. Her Excellency Malestad recently presented her credentials to His Excellency Sir Tapley Seaton, Governor General, and paid courtesy calls on a number of government officials, including Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Vance Emery, and Kay Bass, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thanks for viewing SKNIS Weekend Review. I am Sherima Matthew. See you next week as we continue to update you, the general public, on what's happening in and around the Federation.